All right, everybody, back with another one. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of different topics, just focused on two things really. The interesting discovery that archaeologists found in Turkey, I believe, and the significance it has to the Bible. And we're also going to take a look at the importance of reading books and what's going on with that versus social media today. But before we get into that, I just want to say to take a look at some of the previous episodes we've done recently. We've got some great stuff that we're working on for the end of this year and next year. And there's a lot of interesting topics that we're going to be diving into. There might even be some multi-part series that we get into with some interesting stuff that I really don't see anybody on the internet doing. So hopefully that'll be unique, something different that our channel offers to our audience, that it's not just copying a lot of what other people are putting out there. And we'll jump back and forth between that to other you know breaking news and trending topics as well. But we're going to try and switch things up here a little bit, do some interesting things that are a little bit more unique and not as commonly talked about, and also stuff that I find interesting. But take a look at that. Take a look at the interviews that we've done with our guest Anthony Volpe, and some of the commentary that we had on various topics recently, especially some of the stuff that we've done, um, pertaining to jobs and the economy, in particular the trade jobs, because I think that as we go into 2026, the job market is probably going to start to look a little different. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking for work, and there's not as many companies hiring as there are employees looking to be hired. So we're not in the equilibrium yet, and I think that gives the employee a disadvantage because you're out there applying to jobs, and the market is showing that employers are being very slow to hire, which typically is a good practice in business anyway. But in this case, it's actually significantly out of balance. And I think that, we gave some good insight as to what next year might hold for you in terms of seeking employment. And we talked about trade jobs. We talked about how AI and robotics are going to change the landscape for certain industries. So I also see a lot of people on the internet who talk about buying small businesses and becoming self-employed, becoming an entrepreneur. And many of the businesses that they recommend are small, boring, which is the terminology that people use today, businesses that are reliable, dependable, and tend to always cash flow well, produce a steady income. We showed how robotics might change the landscape of those businesses in the next 5 to 10 years. So there's a lot of good stuff that we've spoken about that I really don't see many people on the internet talking about. Take a look at those previous episodes. Hopefully, there's a lot of value in there for you. Stay tuned for a lot of what we have coming in the future. If you're not subscribed now, subscribe, because we're going to be doing a lot of different things on this channel, especially next year. Next year is going to be a big year where we change things up a lot. We've already changed, the background, the set here a little bit, just to, spruce things up. But we're gonna, do a lot more, put a lot more work, and invest a little bit more into this podcast. And we're gonna definitely have some more guests on, whether it's remotely or we eventually get the podcast studio up and running fully, where we could have guests in house. But we're gonna get more guests on next year. That's a goal of mine, and we're gonna, grow this podcast a lot bigger. So if you want to, stay tuned. If you want to, learn more, or just get the notifications for when new episodes come out, definitely subscribe to the channel. And if you want to, throw us a like or share or anything, it helps the channel grow, which is greatly appreciated. But definitely stay, up to date on what we got going on. And don't forget to, put stuff in the comments too. Let me know if there's anything specific, any topics that you'd like us to talk about, or interview guests that you'd like me to have on. Feel free to put that stuff in the comments or private message me. I'll take anything into consideration to see if it's a good fit for the show. Do that because I do like hearing from the audience. I do like getting your take on and your opinion on things, and what you feel works and doesn't work. So feel free to put that information in there. I want to take a look at something today. It's not a new discovery, but it's something that is constantly making headlines because the archaeologists are continuing to do more research and digging, and they're finding more and more information about this specific discovery, which has been going on for several decades now, but lately, with the latest technology that we have, it's been amping up a lot more. And then is the discovery of a unique object in a mountain in Turkey, which the archaeologists are claiming or verifying on the original person who discovered its uh, theory that it is the actual remnants of Noah's Ark. And this is a really pivotal, important find, probably more so than almost anything, aside from like the Ark of the Covenant or, things left behind from when Jesus was crucified, because these things solidify the information of the Bible to be true. Noah's Ark would be a really significant one if you can prove that, because it's one of the earliest events in the Bible. And if that happened, and it's proven that that happened, it pretty much verifies, not totally, because each event is its own situation and these events happened, hundreds or thousands of years apart from each other. But if this event, which is possibly somewhere between 5 and 7,000 years ago, could even be more, could be 10,000 years ago, because we really don't know, um, is confirmed to have happened, it pretty much verifies everything in the Bible after it. So this would be important for Christianity because it would prove that much of what we, know and read in the Bible and is part of the Christian religion is true. Then that must mean that, God is real and he is the God of the Bible, and that Jesus is was a real man, walked the earth, died, resurrected, and is the, you know, God that we, the Messiah that we had been waiting for, that had come, that had already come, and is the reason that Christianity exists. And this is one of the things that we'll do next year as we dive deeper into more series part episodes. We're going to take a look at world history throughout time, and we're going to discover together that pretty much all of history is from the beginning to the present day is pretty much just the story of two things. It's the story of God's creation of man and the impact that he has had on the world, and, God's, love for us, and also the spread of Christianity throughout the world. And this is seen throughout world history. It's really quite cool when you see the parallel between what was going on in different centuries and where Christianity was at that time. But it is an amazing thing because it also leads to, the resurrection, revelation in the Bible, and that whole situation is Jesus will not return until Christianity is spread to all the corners of the earth, as it says in the Bible. And if you look at world history, it's a timeline of events that shows Christianity spreading throughout the world. And when we get to Revelation, it has finally made it to every corner of the earth. Everybody has had a chance to hear the gospel, and now Jesus can come back. That's one of the factors that he can come back. There's other things too, but that is one of the biggest ones. And so the revelation of Noah's Ark being true is just another, um, another thing on the board that confirms Christianity and helps further spread it, because it wakes people up to, if Noah's Ark is real, and there really was this guy who built this gigantic boat, which at the time, and we'll take a look at that, it would be impossible for one man to build a boat this size. You're talking about it's like 500 feet long. Now, the Titanic, I believe, was around 800 and change, somewhere between there. It might have been between 700 and 900 feet long. I think it was about 800 and something feet long. Significantly large ship, but made by hundreds of people, everybody involved in that whole process, from the people who, made the metal in the factories to the people who actually assembled everything onto the ship. It was hundreds of people were involved in that build. And you're talking a boat that's only a few hundred feet longer than Noah's Ark, which is absolutely insane that one man was able to do this, pretty much. And obviously, with God's direction, God's plans, He gave him all the blueprints and everything. But this is an unbelievable feat. In itself, it's a miracle that one man could build a ship this big. But then to build it and get it operational where it would actually float on water and load it up with all of the animals of the world. We're talking everything from, a mouse to an elephant, a giraffe, all these gigantic animals that you see, in the wild or at the zoo, and they're massive. Imagine trying to wrangle that animal and get it onto a giant ship that you built that's made out of, wood and all kinds of um, old world things that were all done by hand. It's an unbelievable miracle in itself to build this ship and survive the flood, which was massive. I saw somewhere that it was the equivalent of 200 Niagara Falls of rainwater flooding every single day for the entire duration of the storm that caused the flood, which is a massive amount of water. Somewhere else I read too that it was allegedly about the size of the state of Colorado worth of water. Again, gigantic. And to survive that, and then, the boat gets back on dry land, and now you have to go and rebuild the human race is just an unbelievable story. It's almost too unbelievable to be true. It's better than anything Hollywood would have ever written. If this boat is real and they discover, you know, this is legitimately the boat that, was likely used by Noah, and there's remnants of, maybe animals on it, or animal DNA, or, whatever it is, it matches all of the, criteria that it would have taken to be the boat that carried those, all of those animals. It would be a really pivotal point in Christianity, I think, because the masses would now see, wow, this unbelievable story about how this person, their family, you know, got on this boat, survived this storm that apparently killed everybody else on Earth, and then rebuilt the human race would not only be confirmation that then other things in Christianity, must be true, but it would also be important because it would show people that we are all one group of people, even though we're different, nationalities, races of people, and we come from different geographical locations in the world. We all come from one group of people, and we all come from one God. So all of this division by class system and nationality and all these other factors, it's irrelevant because we're all technically one family under God. And so we'll take a look at that now, to learn a little bit more about it. But I think it's one of the most important archaeological finds in a long time, and it's going completely overlooked by people because the media doesn't really want to, promote it. Even watching something with, I believe it was either National Geographic or the History Channel, they had talked about it as though it was this really fascinating, story, and that if it's true, that's amazing. But then they diverted from that and made it about another character in history it parallels with. It sounds really alike, and they were sort of diverting away from the Noah story to say, oh, okay, yeah, this is a big flood that happened, and this person did have this big boat and they survived the flood, but turns out it wasn't Noah, it was this other person in history. So all that Christianity stuff, don't worry about that. But the flood thing's real. And so they do this a lot where truth comes out and they know that they can't stop it. So they just decide to rewrite the narrative around it. And if it has to do with Christianity or God, it's just a way to divert away from that because they don't want people. And when I say they, I mean, the evil of this world does not want people waking up to the reality of life where, God is real, Jesus is the Messiah, and Christianity is the only religion because it's the only collection of works and ideas and philosophy and wisdom and guidance from our God, the only God. So we'll take a look at this now, but I think it's an important story, and I think that as the technology continues to advance and the archaeologists continue to do the work that they're doing, more will come out about this. I foresee more coming out about this sooner than later because the technology is so advanced and they've already started digging the site. So it's probably a matter of a few years before they finally get the entire thing excavated. It's going to take a while because it's a very old find, so they're probably going to do everything by hand, take their time, and make sure that they don't damage anything. Also, when you expose it to the elements, the air, the rain, there's a chance that that stuff could, damage it as well. So they'll probably take their time, but I would imagine within the next few years, we're going to get to the bottom of this and see if this is actually Noah's Ark or not. And if it is, I think it really changes the game for Christianity in this nation. There will be a lot more people that will turn to Christianity because of this. So let's just take a quick look at the article about it and then a little bit about what the Bible has to say about that story, because I think a lot of people too either don't read the Bible or read the Bible sporadically just to, grab quotes, or a lot of times on social media, you'll see people take quotes from the Bible and people will just share that same quote and it becomes popular, but there's so much in the Bible that if you don't read the whole thing you really don't know, and you really probably would never come across it because it's not as popular or it doesn't sound as good today, especially the way that we talk and the ideas that are popular. Some of the stuff that went on in the Bible was pretty kind of dark in a way, and that stuff is not going to be quoted on Instagram. But we'll take a look at those two things. But to my point on that, and something we'll get into in the latter part of this video, is I recommend people read physical books. And we'll talk about that later in the video, but the important thing is to have an actual physical copy of the Bible. You can read the Bible on your Bible app or, online. I read the Bible online too because it's easier to search if you're looking for something specific, but you don't remember what chapter or book or whatever it's in. But I always recommend people actually read the physical Bible book, have the book in your hands, because I think it gives you a different experience. But also you can, make notes in it. You could have a Bible that is a Bible where you just read it. You can have a Bible that's your learning Bible where you actually take notes, like the one that I have here in the back. I actually have about 1,000 post-it notes and markers and everything in there. That's my learning Bible because it allows me to make a note of something and then go back into it and go back to where I was looking for that specific thing and, read that again, or, notate specific parts about it that I think are important when you take the whole thing into context, the whole passage. So with that said, we'll talk about that later in the video, but let's take a look at this article now. So this is the article. It's an article from the New York Post, which is one of the oldest you know, media companies in America, essentially. Noah's Ark site fully preserved. Secrets discovered in radar scans. Not what you'd expect. Now, this has been going on for a long time. They've had, for many decades, different people have been involved in this discovery, but there is a specific group, apparently, of archaeologists and scientists that have gotten together to really dig deep into this. And they've used technology like radar scans and stuff to really see what's going on down there. It's not a new article, this one either. It's from this year, but it's from earlier in the year. But there's, new developments periodically on what's going on here. American researchers claim to have cracked one of the Bible's enduring mysteries after using radar technology to map the possible remains of Noah's Ark. It's exactly what you'd expect to find if this were a man-made boat, consistent with the biblical specifications of Noah's Ark. Andrew Jones, an independent researcher, told the Christian Broadcasting Network, CBN, if you don't know CBN, they're the biggest Christian broadcasting company in America, uh, while revealing the results of a multi-year project. Exactly. So they're working on this for several years, and they're going to continue to until they're done. But this is essentially what it looks like. It's this giant, looks like just a something under. It almost looks like a submarine is under the dirt here. The land essentially. And the idea is that, and if you know the story of Noah's Ark, is that the Ark, when it finally came to land again, it settled on top of a mountain, and then the water receded, and they were able to go back down the mountain and be on dry land again. And, you're talking somewhere between 5 and 10,000 years ago that this happened. It's, you know, by that amount of time, it's possible that, such a large ship, no one would be able to move. Everything just grew on it and around it. And so now it's buried inside of a mountain by just, the world naturally continuing to flourish. So this is what it essentially looks like, the area. And they're going to continue to dig and, radar scans and all kinds of other technology to get to the bottom of this. But we're probably going to see that this is, possibly the actual Noah's Ark, if there's anything that still remained. Because also don't forget too, it's been thousands of years. The Earth could have completely absorbed everything. Talking, natural stuff like wood, and at this time, you might have had some metals like, copper and things like that. But for the most part, it's probably wood and maybe some type of metals that were used for nails or whatever it is that they used to put the ship together. And that stuff's all natural stuff from the earth. So it's possible that some of that stuff was reabsorbed into the earth, especially if it's buried in the land. They might not find, much, or, whatever's left might, be there, but be very decomposed. Well, we'll see. Jones works with Noah's Ark Scans, which he described as a loose organization of individuals interested in pursuing scientific work and promoting the site of the Ark. Okay, so they're attempting to just basically get to the bottom of this. 18 miles south of Mount Ararat, Ararat, which in the Bible described the boat's final resting place. So it's eastern Turkey is where it is, in the mountains of eastern Turkey. Mount Ararat. That's where it's located. 538-foot long boat. Exactly. So you're talking this boat is massively long. For one person to build it is unbelievable. With the same book, Genesis described dimensions of the ark. These are the scans, and essentially this is what they're seeing. So what they're noticing, I think, here is that because the scan is showing a shape like this and not just dissipating into the earth, they're saying that there's something buried inside of this mountain, because otherwise the scan wouldn't take form to anything. It would all just be dirt and rock and stuff. Unless this is just one big rock that's buried under there, like a bedrock, which would probably be kind of out of place. Then something else is making this radar pick it up. Ground penetrating radar to detect what appeared to be a 13-foot tunnel traversing the center of the formation. These scans captured a trifecta of subterranean layers that were alleged dead ringers for the Bible's description of the boat, 3 decks. So the boat had 3 decks. It was a ship shape. Genesis 6:16 states, "Make a roof for the ark and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark inside. Make it lower, second, and third decks." Okay, so that's just explaining how to build the boat. New analysis is revealed that central and side corridors or hallways running through the boat. Given the age of the alleged vessel, Jones said he doesn't expect to find anything fully preserved, claiming that the remains constitute a chemical imprint, pieces of wood, and in the ground, the shape of the hole. Okay, so yeah, exactly. So they're probably, most of the earth probably absorbed most of the stuff that the boat was made out of by then. This is not what you'd expect to see if the site were simply a solid block of rock or the result of random mudflow debris, who felt instead matched the biblical specifications. Now, it's interesting that they jumped to that, but I think the person who discovered it at the time was flying a plane over the mountain, and he had heard tales that that's possibly where Noah's Ark had landed. So he just put two and two together and assumed that that's what it was. And then the people who have taken this project on further, um, they, I guess, just ran with that theory. So it's possible that it is, but it is also possible that it's not. It is also possible it could be a ship, but it could be a completely different ship. But I think they also found, remnants of sea life up there, way up on the top of the mountain, which also makes them think this probably had something to do with the flood, because how else would fish get all the way on the top of a mountain? It's the polar opposite of where fish live, which is in the bottom of the sea. So, how could they get all the way up there? You can't even throw a fish to the top of a mountain. It's huge. And so the theory is that a flood must have brought them up there and they settled on them when the water receded. So the ark in the Bible was described as measuring 515 feet long, 86 feet wide, and 52 feet tall. Organic matter found around the site seems to suggest that it wasn't just some Indiana Jones evoking urban legend. We noticed that the grass growing within the boat shaped formation is a different color compared to the area just outside it. Um, who believed the discrepancy suggested a human-made origin. So they're saying that it's possible human beings put that grass there. Maybe they intentionally tried to bury it. Who knows? Examination of 22 soil samples collected from the site revealed that the suspected structure had lower pH levels, 2 times the organic matter, and 40% more potassium inside compared to the outside the formation. Discrepancies team deemed consistent with rotting wood. Okay, so they're saying they found that in the soil samples. So it's not definitive, obviously. This doesn't prove um, enough, but it proves something. And really, it's more of the how factor. How do you get sea creatures, certain types of animal life that's foreign to that area, all the way up on the top of the mountain? Um, you know, it wouldn't happen naturally. Somebody must have brought it there, and it's possible that people were living up on those mountains years ago, and they ate fish, and they brought them there and ate them there because that's where they lived. But you have to think about that and play it through. How would a civilization that lived on the top of a mountain, why would they go fishing all the way down in the ocean, which would take them forever to do that when they could, hunt live animals that live on the land? So it's not a definitive. There's obviously, some people jump the gun with things and think just because, one, we don't have an explanation for something that's unusual, that it means that that automatically is validation that that thing is true. And I don't think like that myself. I don't let myself just believe in things because you have one or two interesting pieces of evidence. I like to wait and see. I like to, play things out, do as much research as possible and see what comes up. But I wouldn't buy into it just on this stuff, but it is plausible. And so if this is meant to be, if this really is Noah's Ark, God will decide when this is ready to be revealed to the world. And because it's been going on for a few decades now and things keep unfolding about it, and now new technology is allowing them to dig deeper and see more, it's possible that God is saying to his people, now is the time. I'm ready for you to actually see this and, get confirmation. Now, besides the fact that this would be a huge archaeological find, it would change the game for, history in the world. I mean, museums would have to update, certain information. The textbooks in the schools would be updated. It would further, confirm Christianity. This would also be a massive monetary find. I mean, whatever it does remain, even if it's just a few pieces of the ship, which are clearly look as though they match what was described in the Bible, um, those would be worth tons of money. And I wonder how that's going to go, because is the country of Turkey going to seize that, take it over, and now keep it because they want, to have control over that site, or they want to capitalize on what it's worth, or do these archaeologists somehow get to do what they want with this find, um, and possibly even sell it and make money on it? So I guess we'll find out. I mean, this is going to unfold over the next few years, but could even be a decade. Who knows? But I have a feeling that it's possible enough is going to come out within the next few years to where we know whether or not this is the actual the actual find of Noah's Ark. Um, but yeah, let's take a look at the Bible now and see what the Bible says, because I don't know how many people have actually, I mean, obviously Christians do, but for, non-Christians that watch this channel, it's good to see what the actual story of Noah's Ark is about, what's actually in the Bible that talks about that, because a lot of it feels sort of like urban legend for a lot of people who aren't Christians, because it's just a story that's been told so many times throughout history and on all these different, mediums, but to actually read it in the Bible is something different. So let's take a look at that now. So going back to what I said before, I always read a hardcover, you know, real Bible. I have many different types of Bibles. I even have small pocket-sized Bibles, which I think are, great to the print's really small, but they're great to carry around with you if you ever want to have a physical hard copy of the Bible on you. Um, could be even if you travel somewhere and your phone might die, or if you just want to have one to give them out to people. But I have all different types of Bibles, but I do read the Bible online as well. I do look at it on, this website and also the Bible app itself, but this is the one that I'm using right now. If you're looking for a reference, it's Bible Gateway. And this is the story of Noah's Ark. So it's Genesis 6. This is the English Standard Version that I'm reading right now, but I tend to like to read the King James Version or the Geneva Version because those ones have a little bit more of an old world feel. But I do read this one from time to time just to get a clear, modern day English vernacular, how we actually speak today. Um, but this is the precursor of what led to Noah's Ark. So, uh, this is Genesis 6. Increasing corruption on earth is the headline. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took their wives and they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh, his days shall be numbered at 120. Um, there's a whole bunch with that we could talk about in the future, but we'll stay on topic now. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. So it's a little hard for me to read because I have a lot of lights in my eyes. If you're wondering why I'm having trouble reading, it's when you do the podcast, you got to have a lot of lighting so you can see me, and it's kind of blinding. But doing the best I can with that. So that's another thing too. Everybody always throws the term around Nephilim and all these things, and they make it, seem like urban legend or some sort of like sci-fi thing. But it actually is in the Bible. It does talk about giants. It does talk about this term Nephilim, whatever that means. But we, as Christians, I think, have come to acknowledge that it either means giants or a species of whatever, human demons, whatever it is, the race of people where the fallen angels had mated apparently with human beings, and they created this race of semi-human called Nephilim. There's all these different theories about it. We don't have enough evidence to know what that is, but uh, it's clearly in the Bible. It's clearly real. And it's a part of the reason why God brought the flood to wipe out the earth because he did not want whatever that was, Nephilim, and all of the wicked people of this world um, anymore. He felt they weren't, you know, fulfilling his plan for them. And so he wanted to start fresh. He wanted to wipe the slate clean. And if it wasn't for Noah, he might have just wiped everybody off the face of the earth. And then who knows if he would have actually restarted again with human beings. He might have chose to create something else. So it's quite interesting that uh, it all came down to Noah and his family to decide if humanity would continue or possibly cease to exist. But this is the next part. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man, whom I have created from the face of the land, man and animals and creeping things and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Now, it's kind of interesting too, because God is God. God is all knowing, all seeing. And it's almost like the way that that's written, people would interpret that he made a mistake. Um, And obviously that's not the case because God doesn't make mistakes, but it is kind of interesting that God was so frustrated with his own creation that he was ready to scrap that entire project. Um, and I'm not sure if that's true or if that's just the way the story was told in the Bible by whoever wrote Genesis. Um, but it's an interesting factor. Noah and the flood. So now this is where we get into it. 9. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God, and Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So it seems like he's talking about a specific group of people. So it could have been that he was talking about humanity collectively, and it just so happened that Noah was the only one that was, still doing things the right way. Or it could have been that that group of Nephilim, whatever that race or species or whatever was, had corrupted mankind. And God was more annoyed about that his creation had been corrupted by this other thing. And so he just wanted to wipe the slate clean and maybe make it to where that could never happen again. And that's more of what I think it sounds like, the way that the Bible is written. And if you know the backstory of the fallen angels and all that stuff, make yourself an ark of gopher wood. So this will be important if we get more information on that archaeological find, if they discover that it's gopher wood, there is another validation that this could be Noah's Ark. So we'll keep that in mind for the future. Gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits. Now, before we were talking in terms of feet, 515 feet and stuff like that. They didn't use that measurement back then because, feet, inches, things like that, that wasn't invented until much later on. So they used to use a measurement called cubits, and people who, are mathematicians or whatever that do this every day for a living, they've determined that 300 cubits translates to about 515 feet, I guess. So um, that's essentially why the numbers won't line up perfectly, but 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in its side. So that's another important describing factor, descriptive part of the boat. It will be make a roof for the ark and finish it to a cubit above. So it's going to be another one of those cubit measurements higher than the rest of the boat because that's how God wanted the roof designed. So that's another factor when they do discover this boat. If it measures up to about what a cubit was, higher than the rest of the boat, that's another determining factor that this may also be the ark because that math matches up too. And then it says, put the door of the ark in its side. If they find the main entrance door in the side, then that's another determining factor that this could be Noah's Ark. Um, Make it with lower second and third decks. So again, that's where they spoke about before the ship having three decks, that's where it comes from. It's actually in the Bible. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die, but I will establish my covenant with you. So he made a new covenant with Noah at that time. And you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives, and every living thing of all flesh. You shall bring two of every sort into the ark, and keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female of the birds, according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kinds, and of every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind. Two of every sort shall come in to you, and keep them alive. Also take with you every sort of food that is eaten, and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and them. Noah did this, and he did all that God commanded him. So he wanted the animals, but he wanted to save them to continue the animal species as well as the human race. Because he actually told Noah, keep them alive, don't eat them, but bring food separately. Also, back to what I was saying before about how we all come from, one human race, human group. Um, you have Noah who is going on the ship, his wife, and his sons, and then also his sons' wives. So his sons were both, all already married at that point, had their own wives. I wonder too if all of the wives' parents came as well. But you have now the human race starting over with his three sons and their wives. So all of the children that they had, those three couples, is what made the human race continue. So we all apparently go back to these people, right? We're all technically family, but not technically family, but we are all family because God created us all, and we're all created from two people even before that, Adam and Eve. But if you look at it, we all really go back at this point to Noah because those were the only people left on earth, apparently. He said, I'm going to kill everything on the earth, and this is all that's left. So all of the different races and cultures of people that are out there, we all come from this family of people. And we're all, there's no reason really for division and, all of this infighting because we're all one. We're all part of the same family. But um, it's interesting that three couples had restarted the entire earth, and just 8 to 10,000 years later, that is now up to like 7 billion people in the world. And that's with all these other population control factors where you have, abortion killing millions upon millions of people a year, wars killing millions of people a year, famine, all kinds of, illnesses and stuff, and then just natural life change agents like people dying of old age. Um, that's with all those factors. If it wasn't for those factors, the population would probably be 10 times this by now. So it's really interesting, but you could read it yourself and read the whole section in Genesis, or you could just um you know read the Bible. Make it a point to actually read the Bible. One year, take an entire year or however long. I think I might have explained this in one of my previous podcasts, and dedicate it to actually getting through the entire Bible, one passage or one story or whatever per day, week, month, until you finally get there. Well, so that's pretty much what we have for the Noah's Ark mystery so far. I think it's going to be a really interesting thing once it unfolds. We're going to get to really, see history be made in our lifetime, which is cool because there's not many, amazingly big moments like this in history. And to get to live during the time where something like this happens is really quite amazing. So it's an amazing time to be alive. But now we know what the Bible says about that situation. Obviously, there's more to the story because it talks about the flood and everything. I'm not going to go into all of that now, but I just want to take a look at what God told Noah how to build the boat and what it should look like so that we could just take a look at some of those factors and compare it to what the archaeologists are finding with this dig over the next few years. But I'm not going to get into the entirety of the next part because I think we don't have enough time right now. I'll probably do another episode about this in the future where I discuss what I was going to discuss about books in particular, which is going to go into more in future episodes about this. But essentially, we are having an issue in the world today where a lot of people are getting consumed by technology rather than using technology for our advantage. And we're even doing away with things that have been staples in humans' lives throughout time to replace it with technology. One of those things is reading physical books. And I'm a big advocate for actually cracking open and reading real books. I think it's something that the younger generation, especially, is going to have a hard time with if they don't do it because they're so used to scrolling through social media and taking a look at one or two sentences on a screen and then scrolling to the next thing and reading one or two sentences. And everything is dumbed down to very short, small windows of information where you're not getting in depth into an idea. You're not really playing it through to, the end of several hundred-page book where you got to read everything that the author wrote in detail and took you through a journey from the beginning to the end. But also, these authors who write these books, because of the way the publishing works, you have to have evidence, you have to be credible. They're putting a lot of footnotes in, they're putting sources in the end, the appendix, and all this other stuff in a book that is typically common in every book today. So they're well researched, especially if they're published by a real publishing company, not self-published. They're well researched. There's, sources and references to go see and track where this author was getting that information. With social media today, we don't have that. We have people posting things online and doing little to no research, or worse, just making them up because they need content. And I'm in this game a little bit for what I do for this podcast. So I know that a lot of creators, they get so caught up with having to constantly have content and always putting out content on such a consistent but very consistent basis where it's every day or multiple times a day or multiple times a week. And they stop making content with the intention of making it quality or staying with what their goals are or their brand or whatever, and they start just putting out whatever everybody else is doing because they want to jump on a trend. Because you learn in this industry that, especially with a lot of these, websites and social media platforms, if something's trending and you make content about that trend too, you tend to ride that, viral train up as well. And it helps you get more viewers and things like that. So a lot of content creators will do that. But the problem with that is, like I've spoken about in the past on this channel, you'll have somebody put out information that's not true or half true or whatever, not well researched. And if it does well in terms of viewership and things like that, engagement, a lot of people will jump on that bandwagon and now reproduce that same thing or piggyback off that. And now you start having information that's not true being spread all throughout the internet. And then people read it and they believe it. And it's just like with the old days with newspapers, where you would do the original story about something and it wouldn't be true. And then you would do a retraction story after that, correcting the mistakes that you made. I think all the research shows that the retraction story never gets as much views as the original story because it's not as interesting, it's not breaking, it's more informative. And so people tend to not be interested in that. They want shock and awe and breaking news and things like that. And so the people who read it the first time, the first one, they believed the lie and they never saw the retraction video or article or whatever. So they're still walking around believing that lie in their head and probably even telling other people the lie. And that's how disinformation gets spread. We're not checking ourselves. We're not checking our facts. We're not constantly working with each other to edify and have conversations and just determine what the truth actually is and where are we getting it from. So it's a problem that I see as a cultural problem in the world today, but I also see it as a problem because it's taking away from the way we used to do things where you read books, you read somebody's well thought out, information that it took them months or years or whatever to compile that and put it together in one document for you. But because that process takes so long, a lot of people don't do it. So what I'm going to do in the future on this channel is integrate into it some videos where we do book reviews, where we talk about some of the great wisdom that's in some of the books that I've read. Now, I'm not going to do book reviews like some of the other book review channels where they'll do a book review on any book, or on, something that's trending or something that's, in part of popular culture. It's mostly just going to be books that I've read in my life, and things that interest me. So if it's not something that interests everybody that watches this show, that's completely understandable. A lot of the books I read are nonfiction, not a big fiction guy. I do sometimes read fiction just because, some stuff can be entertaining, but a lot of it's going to be, nonfiction books that are more about, just informational things, but stuff that's interesting. It has great life lessons and great wisdom, and can really benefit a lot of people. So we'll integrate that into the show as time goes on. Every few episodes will be like a book review just to talk about a book that I've read and some of the information that I think would be beneficial. And I'll encourage people to go and buy that physical book. I don't get any money or anything from this. It's not a brand deal or something. It's just to get people again to start reading physical books because it's such an important thing that people are not doing today, and it's causing so many problems. The attention span's dropping. Our children are getting dumber than the previous generations because they don't have as much good, credible information, but they have a lot of information that's not that good, not that credible, and it's going to create an entire generation of people that think they're really smart but actually know nothing. And that's part of where I see the future of the younger generations heading. So, with that said, I do want to talk about this one book right now, which is my children's book that I wrote. It's available right now on sale. This is like the last week to get it in time for Christmas, I believe. So you might want to place your orders now. I always have the ad at the end of these podcasts so that you could see some of the stuff, some of the different ways that you can support the channel by buying our merch. And also, not just this channel, we support charities as well. So a portion of a lot of that goes to charities because we believe in, giving back and helping specific causes, not just any cause, but specific causes that are very important to us and to me personally. But definitely, check out the book. Um, it's Little Boy Full of Love. I wrote this book for my son, and it's got a lot of, really cool, great life lessons that you don't really see much anymore. You do sometimes see that stuff, and just to confirm, that's me on the back right there. You don't really see these type of things. There are some great books that are coming out now that are more, faith-based or within the Christian children's book genre, I guess you would say, that are teaching life lessons, which is cool. But for, several years before, you really didn't see this stuff. So it's good to have some of the books that are, teaching good life lessons to our children today. And mine, I think, is one of them. It's a great book. I actually read it to my son, who I wrote it for. So it makes a great book, and it's a great Christmas gift. It's actually on sale right now, so it's very affordable price. Get it in time for the holidays, and check out some of the other stuff in the ad at the end of this video, our apparel shop and things like that, where you can, support the channel and get some stuff for Christmas. There's a lot of sales running right now too, but we'll go more into, book reviews and things like that in the future. We're gonna do some more, series part multi-part series, I guess you would say, podcast episodes in the future next year as well, where we dive deeper into interesting, things that I think, like I said, a lot of people online are not talking about. Hopefully that'll allow this channel to be a little bit different. And yeah, by now, if you don't know, we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about politics, history, health and wellness, business, and all different types of things on this channel. So it's a channel that is very versatile in that way. There's a little bit of something, I think, for everybody. Not everybody. Some people like just certain things that we topics that we don't get into, but for the most part, this is pretty much what we do, which is very well rounded. We talk about a lot of different types of topics and categories. So if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. And that's pretty much it for this episode. There'll be a few more episodes before the end of the year. And with the holiday season coming, we do have a special episode that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks for the Christmas break. And then we will go into the new year with some new things, some new topics, some hopefully new guests. And yeah, it's going to be a good year going forward. So definitely subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son. And it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms. Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throwing your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future, and I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.